Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, so say the question one more time. So I get.
Yeah. So my question was was that what would the objection be? Would the objection be in, let's say, 2 years, the appraiser says to you, okay, I mean, they say, well, what will happen if I do want to get it appraised and it's less than 210,000 in 2 years? What, I mean, how does it, what if it's, 190? How does that work for them?
Yeah, so it's a fair question, and it's a possibility. I mean, both the buyer and seller are, in essence, guessing as to the value of the price in the future.
Okay.
The buyer is always hoping that they're going to get a bunch of free equity in 3 years, right? That
Right.
it's $200,000 currently in the market, that it'll go up to 250. So they'll get $50,000 of free equity. That, in theory, if they were to sell the next day, they would collect a check for 50 grand.
Right.
But the seller, doesn't know if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down or if it's just going to stay kind of sideways, which are the three options, right? It can go up, it can go down, or it can go sideways.
Right.
If it goes down, then the buyer and seller, just like they did at the very beginning of the lease term, have to renegotiate something. So they could be extending the term out longer, or it could be the seller lowering their price. You know, so,
Oh, okay.
you know,
Okay.
so, so it depends on the motivation of each, right? If the buyer's like, look, I really want this. And I always recommend, because that it doesn't always come up, but it does come up. They do ask me that. So what I always tell the buyer, say, listen, first of all, I'm not your realtor. I cannot, or your attorney, I cannot provide you any kind of real estate advice. I can't advise you. But if it were me, this is what I would do. And so kind of wink, 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 right?
Right.
And so I'm saying this is what I would do, because I don't want them to get hurt, right? So I can't advise them, but at the same time, I want them to kind of know this is what I would do.
Right.
I would put a clause in the beginning that says if the property does not appraise during or at the end of the term, because the buyer can exercise their option at any time during that term,
Right.
the seller agrees to adjust the price to a market price, based on what it will appraise for. So they can always stipulate that from day one. And the seller, it's a reasonable request. I mean, the seller has to say, look, if this person's been paying for 3 years, they're ready to pull the trigger on it, but they can't buy. And so they need kind of an escape clause here. Usually getting their money back, whatever, well, not usually, never is that a case. But so it would either be that, or it would just be the seller agrees to extend out their term longer, so that way the property could then adjust, because properties go up and down every single 30 days. If you look at
Right.
property on Zillow today, in 30 days, it'll be up or down. So that's pretty standard. So that's how I handle that objection.
Okay. All right. That's the first thing that popped in my head. I was just like, okay, with all that being said, yeah, because I try to think of it and put myself in their shoes. So when you're explaining that information, I try to think of how I would respond to what you're saying. Like, what would be a concern of mine? And so besides that, that's I mean, I understand, because the whole idea is that you're helping them out of a distressed situation. And so that's the whole idea. And you're giving, like you said, you're taking the cancer essentially out of their brain. And so you're taking care of that for them. Healing, bringing them to a I can breathe again moment. So yeah, so I can, yeah, so that gives me, and that was always my kind of issue with wholesaling, was that, well, any kind of selling, is that when you sell something to somebody that they really don't need or they really don't want, or we're kind of talking them into it, we're constantly, pushing it down their throat, like, hey, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. And that's always been my problem when I've sold in the past, is like, okay, but they keep looking at you like, I don't want this, but you're making me feel like if I don't take it, like there's going to be a problem.
Think about that too, is what we talked about just before we started recording this call. Um, if there's no pain or problem, there's no what?
It's no
There's
game.
there's no solution, because
No solution. Yeah.
there's no sale, right?
Right.
Um, like you said, that feeling of I'm trying to force a solution on somebody who does not either think they have a problem or who does not legitimately have a problem.
Right.
And that's where the awkwardness gets there.
Right.
right? That's where it's awkward because you're like, I'm really the doctor who's prescribing a medication that the patient doesn't need.
Right.
And they're going, dude, why are you trying to sell me stuff I don't need? And so the reason why I was sharing with you earlier why I ask so many questions is because I don't know what the real issue is.
Right.
A good doctor doesn't know. And so I read the Bible, for example, and it's talking about, a wise person who's a wise person will draw out information from a person.
Yeah.
That's important because that's telling me, oh, here's where it's hurt. Here's where the pain is. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, in my bag of tricks to solve this problem, what can I prescribe?
Right.
So that's why that's why I asked this young lady, why didn't you sell? Because I can't. I don't have any equity. Why don't you become a landlord? Because I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to. I'm not a handy woman, right? I don't want to fix stuff in a property, that kind of stuff. So once I heard that, I was like, do I have a solution in my bag of tricks of solutions?
Right.
A way to help her. I do. I have a way that I can definitely help her solve her issues. So yeah, so that's cool. So that's good. So that tells me that pillar number one, pillar number two, we give them their full asking price. I don't have to haggle with them. Now, obviously, if they're like insane, right, and they're offering, I want $1 million because these guys said they give me my full asking price. And I tell them that up front, by the way. I say, listen, here's what I tell them. I don't care what you ask for your property. I really don't. I'm not going to buy your house. My intention, sir or ma'am, on day one, I tell them this, I'm real upfront, is to assign the contract to somebody else. It's a baton race. I've got the baton. I'm going to pass it off to somebody else, and they're going to give me a fee for having passed it off to them.
Right.
If, however, you overprice your property, no one's going to want the baton.
Right.
No one's going to get it. Specifically speaking about the rental price. So the purchase price, we actually have flexibility of 10 to 20%. For example, the house is really worth $200,000, but we're going to add our fee of $10,000, and maybe they want to add an extra 10 or whatever. We have that flexibility, but when it comes to the rental price, we have zero flexibility.
Right.
Price not. So, just to kind of tell you your future, when you've got deals under contract that you're looking to sell, and you're not getting action. You're not getting action because of the rental price, and it is always price. The seller's going to say, I don't know. I put all this investment in the property. It's a beautiful home. I've been here for 20 years. Uncle John lived in the back room, and my kids lived in the front room, and blah, blah. It's a beautiful. I love the home. They're speaking from an emotional standpoint. I'm looking at it from a logical standpoint. I'm going, there's only one reason your house doesn't sell, sir or ma'am. It's price. And specifically for the nature of what we're doing, it's rental price. This is what I explained to them up front. I say, this is something else, just kind of, what I'm doing, by the way, is I'm putting tools in your toolbox as we speak, right?
Yes.
So this is what I tell them up front. It's kind of like when you go buy a car. By the way, using the phrase, it's kind of like is gold for your communication over the phone. It's kind of like when you go buy a car. You care about the purchase price of the car, but you really care about that monthly payment, don't you? Asking don't you is an open-ended question, right? So they're going, yeah, that's true. I care about the purchase price, but I really care about that monthly payment. That's what I'm focused in on. So your tenant buyer, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, is focused on that monthly rental payment, just like the car buyer is. So if we go too high, and this is the reason why I lay this out to them up front. These guys, the sellers, will oftentimes, when they start to research what we're presenting to them, they'll research things like they'll find online that says, yeah, you can raise the rental price $100, $200, $300, $400 a month more, and then use that additional chunk of money as the buyer credit or rent credit that's going to apply to the purchase price. That is the death of your deal. I really believe that people who write that stuff don't actually do the stuff.
Right. Yeah, they just
read a
providing content. That's all.
Yeah, and I'm like, when I actually do it, what happens is my market is there are a bunch of renters that are looking at this overpriced rental, and they're right? You and I know it's a rent to own, there's more value, et cetera, but they're looking at it like this is an overpriced rental. The house right next door is $300 less.
Right.
So the reason we don't get a lot of traffic is because of that reason. So I explained this to them on our first call, and I say, we've got to get that rental price correctly. If you do, the benefit to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is that we'll get a good stream of traffic coming in. That street, let's say we started on a Monday and we started to get buyer traffic on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And we had now a little pool of tenant buyers that were interested in raising their hand saying, I want to come see the property.
Right.
That Saturday, we would schedule a 1 hour showing. 1 hour. I know that's on purpose.
I think that's genius. When I watched that one, I was like, this is everybody, like, because then nobody can't not show up because they thinking they're gonna miss out.
It's a strategy I learned a long time ago from a book I read, and I started to implement it, and it worked beautifully. So I didn't make it up. I wish I would have, but I put it into practice, and so will you. So you tell the seller, listen, seller, I don't want you to have to come out and show the property every single weekend. That's good, right? They're like, yeah, absolutely. I don't want to have to come out every single, if they live somewhere else or open their house where they currently live.
Right.
So to make this easy for you, price your rental property or the rental price appropriately. Market price will help you. If you don't know how, I can show you how to do it. It's real easy and fast. So that we can get a good chunk of buyers raising their hands saying, yeah, I want to come out and see the property on that Saturday for 1 hour. It's called the auction strategy. And we have them all show up during that 1 hour. They all look around and go, oh man, I've got this competition. That way, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, you're not going to have people trying to lowball you on your purchase price. Number two, you'll get a buyer real quick.
Right.
I share about the one I did in 6 days when I was just starting out many years ago. And within 24 to 48 hours, I'd found buyers, and they did. They came at the same exact time. It was awkward. I wanted it to be awkward, and they realized that there was a competitive thing, and boom, I got an offer within like 48 hours, closed that weekend, $3,000, and I put in maybe most 2 to 4 hours tops into the deal. So it's the same process here. If we price the property right, we get everybody to show up on that one day, all see each other, we'll get good full price offers, and we'll get buyers fast. That's how it works to get a fast sale. So that's why I kind of pitched to them like, hey, this is why you got to do that. And in doing so, they typically do.
Okay. I had two questions. I lost one of them in my head.
I tend to ramble, man. I really want to give you like a lot of value too, but I tend to ramble. So
no. All of that is perfect. It kind of leads me. That's the reason why I kind of ask questions a certain way, because I know it's going to lead to more. So, because we talked about this, you said it's only certain states you really can't market in. Because I've seen information on how you can look up what areas, because we're not doing it. So that's the reason why I said I had to kind of change my mindset. I was thinking about things. We're not doing it the traditional wholesaling way. So, because a lot of that, they like, oh, you're looking for buyers that buy in one area. You're looking for, so you can find buyers that way. How do you normally find, because like if I go on Craigslist, how do I know where in Ohio I should go to market to? Is it zip code, or how do you know what area you're doing?
Yeah, good question. So one, it depends on your marketing strategy. So for me, I have historically used a text blast software. The reason why is because it allowed me to go real fast and figure out real quick which market was responding to me. So as a marketer, again, putting that marketing cap on,
right,
I'm split testing. I'm trying to go, all right, I want to figure out what you just said, where to go.
Right.
The disadvantage that realtors and traditional wholesalers have is that they're taught farm your local area, right? You got to farm this area, and whether it's mailers or postcards or driving around, whatever crazy stuff that they're taught.
Yeah.
They focus on that one thing. The problem is, of course, if it becomes oversaturated or if the market changes, that's it. It's game over, right? For us, using a text blast software, in 5 minutes, I can figure out, 30 minutes, I can figure out if I got, if I struck a vein or not, right?
Right.
I'll get responses, right? There'll be a bunch of sellers going, yeah, that sounds good, or whatever. If I get zero, then I just delete that campaign and I go into another state. I mean, it's it's a matter of 5 minutes to change. It's the same campaign. Everything's the same. I just delete the cities and states and I put it in different cities and states. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay.
So then I launched the campaign. And so my point is I'm split testing. I'm trying to go, okay, which one of these 2 or 3 different states give me the best response? And I already know pretty much which cities and states I want to go after to test.
Right.
I'll share with you. But even with that, markets still change. And so I can figure it out within about an hour. I don't need some kind of impressive market data analysis from Forbes and Zillow and all this kind of stuff. I push a button, pun intended, right? Push button. Right. And it tells me, I just see based on the response. And I'm like, okay, sweet. It's Florida that is, which is actually a really good city or state to do business in. And there you go. I just work the leads. And frankly, I could do multiple cities and states. And, depending on, how ambitious I am at a given time, and I can just go for, remember, like if I got 30 responses and 25 of them were no's, I don't care. I'm literally scrolling in seconds going past the no's. That's how I do it.
Right.
Because most brand new people are like, oh, I got to check out the ARV. I've got to, and the person said no, but they're like, well, let me see if I can calculate the ARV and I can. They said, no, just scroll down and go to the guy who's like, yeah, tell me more. How's this work? And those 5 out of the 30 are the ones I'm calling.
Right.
So professionals sort, amateurs convince.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm on the next campaign and I'm on to the next city and state and I'm looking for the next 5. I'm looking for the 4 aces. Remember me telling? I think I told you that, right? The deck of cards. Did I tell you that story?
No, not that story. No.
All right, that is not a story, but it's more of a philosophy. And I'll end with this because I know but this is valuable for you, man. This is
okay.
Very, very valuable for you, especially in the beginning. This is a philosophy that I learned a long time ago that made me a professional that sorted versus an amateur that convinced. Okay, I see this, and I'm just going to I'm trying to save you as quickly as I can from a lot of pain and heartache that I see a lot of people go through. Every deck of cards has 52 cards in it.
Right.
Always. In every deck of 52 cards, there's always 4 aces. Always. That means that if there's 4 aces, there are 48 non-aces.
Right.
Fair enough? So as a professional, I grab that deck of cards and I flip through them as fast as I humanly possibly can to find my 4 aces. The amateur flips through them slowly, checking ARV, checking the zip codes, checking what Forbes said, whatever. And then they find a jack and they go, I finally got a lead. It's a jack. It's not an ace, but I'm going to scribble it out and I'm going to stick with it for this entire week and try to make it into an ace. The professional goes, I'm going to flip through as fast as I can. I got my 4 aces. Next deck of cards. Flip, 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 flip. So the moral of the story here, or this lesson, is that time compression is achieved. Your success goes faster when you flip through the cards, which is what a professional does, sorting through the cards, looking for the 4 aces, versus the amateur who's like jack, queen, spade, the spade. I bet you I could convince it to be, they were so nice. I could convince them to become an ace if I just, and that's the death of their business because they go, no one's signing up. This business doesn't work. That's because I'm not hanging out with the jacks. I'm looking for the ace. I'm not trying to make them into aces. I'm looking for the 4 aces. Right. So that's my parting, lesson that I want to give to you today. But that's going to serve you for the rest of your life, man. Not only this business, but other businesses that you can get into on how to do this professionally. Does that help?
That helped out a lot. Yeah, because I have to do that now, and a lot of it is just you don't force people. You can never force somebody into something. And when the more you try, the more work you put in than they are, because they've already checked out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I just
a living right now?
I'm sorry.
What do you do for a living right now?
Actually, I work for Discover credit card.
Okay.
So I work for them. I'm one of their finance managers. So I do that. I talk to anybody that, I'm an account manager for them. So I deal mainly with customers, but a lot of it has to just mainly deal with some businesses, but mainly personal. So if you have concerns about your accounts, I deal with all that. So um, anything over entry level stuff, anything over entry level. I moved out because I was in a higher level banking position working for a Midwest bank, and it was too time consuming. And I knew I wanted to do this, or not this, but I knew I wanted to be in wholesaling. And so I said, I'm spending 7 days a week into this. I'm getting called in, for simple stuff, but they don't want to pay me. And I'm not a corporate guy. And I said, I need to get out of this. I need to figure out a way to get out of it. So that's why I left about, back in October? Yeah. So I left that company back in October. And I said, I'll take the pay decrease if I can have more time. I need more time so I can focus and do this and have these kind of conversations, be able to invest in myself. So that's what I'm doing now.
My total respect for that. Most people wouldn't do that. They would. Have you ever read any of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki?
You know what? I started reading it, and then everybody pretty much tells me about the book, and I was like, it sounds like me. So that's why I said it sounds like where I'm at. So I was like, I said I'm gonna get through it, but I was like, I'm pretty much I know the guy. I know who he is. He's me. So
Yeah, I tell you, the value of not going to work for money,
right,
but what you're doing now is you've invested now in education that will change your life. And I know that sounds cliche. I know that sounds like it's life changing. It'll change your life. It's absolutely changed my life. Remember, if you've heard what I've shared about my story, where I was a realtor working 14 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, stressed out like crazy. Yeah, I sold three
right,
to five houses a month, but I thought, okay, how do I, like, if this is the end of, like, if this is the end goal here, this sucks because I'm
right,
stressed out all the time. I have no life. I'm in the office at 7. I'm faxing offers before midnight that
right,
same day. Um, this is not what I wanted. And if I want to grow this business, then
right,
it's going to get, either I've got to get more assistants. I had assistants at that time and all that kind of stuff, but it's just not what I wanted. Today, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't heard my little son, walk in the office so far. I mean, he normally does around this time. Um, it's again, sounds cliche, but it's a dream, man. It's genuinely living. I mean, making great money. And I'll spend the day at the park today with my son. Every day I do. Normally, like tomorrow, I finish my day at 9 o'clock in the morning, right?
right,
Wednesday's the same thing, and I go spend the whole day with my son, and income still keeps coming in, whether I work or not, passively. Some of it's not passive, but some of it is, and
right,
I just love it. My wife, who is like completely anti business, is now a very well paid photographer. We have a photography physical studio in Long Beach, and she runs that. And for her to do $1,000 days, $1,500 days, $2,000 days is normal now. Whereas she used to think it was something that was just a lot of. But I showed her how to be a high ticket, how to sell high ticket stuff for her
right,
business, make sure what she does. And that's my goal again for you, man, is to show you how to be a high ticket closer, to get paid honestly what's going to feel like you're getting overpaid for the amount of work that you do, because you literally will average 2 to 4 hours per deal. I mean, think about it. If you're not showing up at the property, if you're not meeting with sellers, you're not doing open house, you're not doing showings, you're doing a fraction of what everybody else is doing, but you're still getting the big chunk of change. So anyway,
right.
that is my promise to you over the next 3 months.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's really what I connected on. To be honest with you, more than what I saw in the video was the actual story, because I was like, that's me, that's how I was. So I was like, that's what I'm trying. Because a lot of people don't. I don't know if they don't. It's not necessarily that I don't think they don't relate, but they don't understand. Like when you work that much, like time is everything to you. Then, like how you value it is everything. It becomes more valuable than the money that you're making at that point. because you said I don't have enough of it to even enjoy what I'm making. So it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, the stress is not worth it. I mean, I physically got ill at one point because of so much stress. Um, it's just not worth it. You're thinking, wow, this is the success.
Right.
It's just not worth it. And that's when I, ultimately lost everything. And then as I rebuilt, I started to learn about wholesaling for the first time. I was a realtor, but it never, we were taught to shy away from that.
Right.
As I'm learning about wholesaling, I'm like, it's appealing because I don't have to have a license and there's good money to be made, but it sounds awfully familiar to me. It sounds like I'm going to have to do a lot of the same work.
Right.
It's going to put me right back in the same place, but just without a license. I don't want to do that. And so then I learned about virtual wholesaling, and I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to be able to automate 90% of my sales and marketing. I want to have both financial freedom, but also time freedom. So that's why I embraced this and just went full force.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well,
thank you.
You're very welcome. I hope that's inspiring, and I hope you see kind of the vision of what we're going to be doing. And, it's kind of like we're you always slow down to speed up, right? So what we're doing is we're kind of just connecting, and it helps me to understand kind of where you're at. You obviously have gone through the material. I can tell that you've gone through the material. I recommend going through it over and over so it becomes really just a part of you, so you can just rattle it off like I do. You can probably tell I can say it easily because I'm saying it so much every day.
Right.
I want that to be the case for you. So definitely go back through the material. I'll send you the links to what I share with you as far as like the software if you want to do that.
Right.
If not, then just look at the ways of posting ads and stuff like that.
Right.
And then on our next call next week, let's have a decision prior to that call so that we'll know which direction you want to go. And then, so if it's just doing the non paid traffic approaches, posting ads and things like that, let's start doing it so we can start generating some leads that way. If it's the text blast software, let's schedule our call for next week to get that going. Actually, let's get you going before that so that way we can be ready to just launch your first campaign next week.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll notice I'm trying to compress time frames as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
So we can get some results.
Yes. Yeah. Let's do that then. Let's schedule. So you want to send me the link, and then we'll schedule that time. And you said you'll send me for the text blast software. How do you want to handle? You said you're going to send me that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to send you everything. I'll give you some instructions in the email, and then whatever direction you want to do, let's get it going so that by the time we're on the call next week, we're talking leads. Like I want to hit the ground running,
right?
And just get going. I'd rather have imperfect action than perfect inaction.
Absolutely. Okay, that works perfectly. All right, thanks a lot.
All right, my friend. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, you do the same, Russ.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.